On the back cover of our copy of The Lord of the Rings, a reviewer has written that the English-speaking world is now divided into two kinds of people: those who have read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and those who still intend to. They are stories of enduring popularity. Generation after generation continue to fall in love with the world that Tolkien has created, and especially with the hobbits, who are the unlikely heroes of his story. And it's precisely because they're unlikely heroes that we love them. They are small people in a big world. They are faced with impossible challenges, and yet they triumph. Frodo and Bilbo Baggins help us believe that in a world with challenges that threaten to overwhelm us, we too can prevail. We are also little people in a big world, and the hobbits inspire us and give us courage. Our gospel reading on this third Sunday of Advent is from Luke 1:46 to 55, and it's also the story of a little person being lifted up and triumphing despite all the obstacles that she faces. And that little person is Mary, a young girl, desperately poor, probably with no access to education. She doesn't seem like the obvious choice for a hero of a story, and yet God chooses her and uses her. And in response to all that God has done in her life, Mary sings a song, and we call it the Magnificat, because in the Latin translation of this passage, the first word of the passage is Magnificat, translated praise. Mary's song reminds us that God is on the side of the little people. He has brought down mighty rulers, she sings. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away with empty hands. Like with Frodo and Bilbo, we are encouraged by Mary. She is an unlikely hero, and yet she is chosen and used by God to save all people. And her song is an echo of another song sung by another little person. In the Old Testament, in 1 Samuel chapter 2, we meet Hannah, who sings a very similar song to the God who has noticed her and lifted her up. Hannah was not able to have children, but in response to her desperate prayers, God answers her prayer and she gives birth to Samuel, who becomes a great leader to the nation of Israel. So Hannah sings her own Magnificat, celebrating the God who, she says, raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the garbage heap. So, you and I are comforted by the stories of Mary and Hannah. If we too are little people, God will see us and lift us up. In the last few weeks, however, I have been reminded again and again that in many ways, in the grander scheme of things, I may not be a little person. As I've heard stories from South Africans who are facing terrible hardships, from crippling poverty or overwhelming health or family circumstances, I notice how much easier and more comfortable my own life is. And I wonder if maybe, compared to Mary, I am one of the mighty kings in Mary's song. That's an uncomfortable thought. Mary's song may comfort me and remind me that God sees me, but it also challenges me to notice the little people that God sees. It challenges me to look for how I can be God's person in this world, a person who uses what has been entrusted to me to lift up the poor, so that Mary's and Hannah's have a song to sing. Amen.